The 5 humans stood in the great waiting hall of Centaurus Station, their faces turned upward at the massive dome of swirling stars above them. Ambassador James Reed adjusted his formal blue uniform for the 10th time in an hour. After decades of preparation, humanity's moment had finally come. "Stop fidgeting, James," said Dr. Anna Reyes, the science advisor. "You're making us all nervous." Reed forced his hands to his sides. "Sorry. Hard to believe we're finally here, representing all of Earth." Captain Marcus Foster, their military escort, kept his eyes on the alien guards positioned around the chamber. "Just remember the plan. Be respectful, be confident, and don't show fear." The waiting hall was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Tall, slender aliens with blue skin spoke in musical tones. Bulky reptilian creatures surveyed the room with multiple eyes. Small hovering orbs of light pulsed in patterns near the ceiling. "Look at them all," whispered Lisa Chen, the cultural liaison. "Hundreds of species, living and working together. And today, we join them." The 5th member of their team, Technical Director Omar Patel, tapped notes into his handheld device. "Assuming they vote yes, the Council has rejected 17 species in the last century alone." Reed shook his head. "That won't happen to us. Earth has achieved every benchmark they set. Clean energy, unified government, peaceful colonies on Mars and Luna, and our warp drive technology is already compatible with Council standards." A chime sounded through the hall, and the massive doors at the far end slid open. A tall, thin alien with crystalline skin approached them. "The Luminar," Lisa whispered, "one of the founding Council species." The crystalline being bowed slightly. "The Council will now hear Earth's petition. Follow me." The 5 humans walked behind the Luminar through the grand doors into the Council chamber. The circular room stretched upward for what seemed like hundreds of meters, with seating arranged in rising tiers. Representatives from dozens of species watched as the humans entered. At the center of the room stood a circular platform. The Luminar gestured toward it. "Present your case there, humans." Reed took a deep breath and stepped onto the platform. A beam of light enveloped him, and his image was projected throughout the chamber. He began the speech he had practiced for months. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council, I stand before you representing the United Earth Government and all of humanity. For 2 centuries, we have watched the stars, knowing we were not alone. For decades, we have worked to meet your standards for admission. Today, we come before you as equals, ready to join this great community of species." Reed spoke for 20 minutes, detailing Earth's achievements, its peaceful unification after the resource wars, the environmental restoration projects, and the flourishing colonies across the solar system. He showed holographic images of Earth's cities, now green and sustainable, of the underwater habitats in Earth's oceans, and the magnificent domes of New Armstrong City on Luna. When he finished, there was silence. Then, from the highest tier, a being with dark, swirling skin that seemed to contain tiny stars spoke. "A Voidborn, one of the telepathic elder races. We have reviewed your submission, Ambassador Reed. We have studied your species extensively." Reed smiled. "Then you know we are ready to join the galactic community." The Voidborn's voice grew cold. "We know that humanity is dangerously unpredictable. Your history is stained with warfare and destruction. You claim peace, yet your military budgets remain substantial. You speak of unity, yet cultural divisions persist." Reed's smile faded. "With respect, every species has a troubled past. We have learned from ours and grown beyond it." A different council member, a being with 6 arms and insect-like features, raised a limb. "The human brain still contains primitive structures that trigger aggression. Your species reaches for the stars while still carrying the instincts of planet-bound predators." "That's not fair." Dr. Reyes stepped forward. "Our biology doesn't determine our destiny. We've proven that through centuries of progress." The chamber erupted in murmurs. The Luminar raised a crystalline hand. "The human delegate will respect council protocol. Only the designated ambassador may speak." Reed felt sweat forming on his brow. This wasn't going as planned. Council members, I ask that you judge us on our actions, not on theoretical concerns about our nature. The Voidborn spoke again. We have deliberated extensively before your arrival. The decision is made. A holographic display appeared above the chamber. Symbols representing each council species appeared, all glowing red. The council vote is unanimous. Earth's petition for membership is denied. Reed stood in shock. Unanimous. But we weren't even given a chance to address your concerns. The council's wisdom spans millennia. Human. We have seen species like yours before. The risks outweigh the benefits of your admission. Captain Foster stepped forward. This is outrageous. At least give us the courtesy of a proper hearing. Security drones moved closer to the human delegation. The Luminar's voice hardened. Earth is to remain isolated within its solar system. Limited trade with approved council worlds will continue under supervision. In time, perhaps centuries, your petition may be reconsidered. Reed struggled to maintain his composure. And if we don't accept these terms? The chamber darkened slightly. The Voidborn's star-flecked skin pulsed. Any unauthorized expansion beyond your system will be considered an act of aggression against the Council. We have the means to enforce our boundaries. Ambassador, do not test us. Within an hour, the human delegation was escorted back to their ship. As they departed Centaurus Station, they sat in stunned silence on the bridge, watching the massive structure shrink in the view screen. What do we do now? Lisa finally asked. Reed stared at the stars. We go home and tell our people the truth. The door to the galaxy has been slammed in our face. 3 days later, United Earth President Maria Torres stood before the Global Assembly in New Geneva. Billions watched the broadcast across Earth and its colonies. Today, I must share difficult news. The Galactic Council has denied our petition for membership. She paused as shocked murmurs swept through the assembly. They have ordered us to remain confined to our solar system, claiming our species is too unpredictable, too dangerous to join their community. Torres' expression hardened, but we will not accept their judgment as final. If the existing order of the galaxy has no place for humanity, then we will create our own place among the stars. The assembly erupted in cheers and applause. Today, I am authorizing the formation of the Pathfinder Initiative. Our best ships, our brightest minds, will venture beyond Council space to the unexplored regions they have deemed too dangerous to settle. We will forge our own path, make our own allies, and build our own future. Torres looked directly into the camera, her eyes burning with determination. The Council believes they have contained us. They are wrong. They have merely redirected us, and they will soon discover that humanity, when faced with a closed door, doesn't just knock louder. We build our own house. As the speech ended, Reed watched from the back of the hall. For the first time since leaving Centaurus Station, he smiled. The Council had made a critical mistake. They had given humanity something more powerful than acceptance. They had given them something to prove. 5 years after Earth's rejection from the Galactic Council, the deep space exploration vessel Pathfinder drifted silently at the edge of what the Council called the Dark Sectors. Commander Thomas Walker stood on the bridge, looking out at the swirling space anomalies that marked the boundary. Behind these strange energy formations lay vast regions of unexplored space, regions the Council races avoided. Status report, Walker said, his voice steady despite the tension on the bridge. Lieutenant Ben Morris checked his screens. All systems normal, Commander. The stealth systems are working perfectly. No sign of Council patrols. Walker nodded. Dr. Morgan, are you ready? Dr. Eliza Morgan looked up from her station, where complex equations flowed across multiple screens. Her eyes showed both excitement and doubt. As ready as we'll ever be, she said. The stabilizers should work in theory, but no one has ever tried to pass through these anomalies before. Walker walked to the center of the bridge. The Council thinks these anomalies are too dangerous to cross. They've used them as natural barriers to keep species contained. But today, we proved them wrong. He turned to the communications officer. Last message to Earth. Received and acknowledged, sir. President Torres sends her regards and says, make history. Walker took a deep breath. Helm, take us in, 1/4 power. Activate the Morgan stabilizers. The Pathfinder moved forward slowly. As they approached the swirling energy barrier, 4 large panels extended from the ship's hull. Blue energy flowed from the panels, reaching out toward the anomalies. Where the energies met, the chaotic patterns of the anomaly began to smooth and organize. It's working, Dr. Morgan said, her voice rising with excitement. The stabilizers are creating a path. The ship shuddered as it entered the anomaly. Lights flickered across the bridge. Warning alarms sounded briefly, then fell silent. Hull integrity holding, Morris reported. All systems functioning within normal parameters. For 3 tense minutes, the Pathfinder pushed through the energy barrier. The view screen showed only swirling patterns of light. Then, suddenly, the chaos cleared, and new stars spread out before them. We're through, Walker said quietly. Then louder, we're through. Navigation, confirm our position. The bridge erupted in cheers. Humans had just crossed a barrier that had stopped the council races for thousands of years. Scanning nearby systems, the science officer announced. Commander, you're not going to believe this. We've got multiple habitable planets within range. The closest is just 2 days away at standard speed. Walker smiled. Set course. Let's see what the council has been missing. 2 months later, Walker stood on the surface of a green, vibrant world that humanity had named New Dawn. Around him, prefabricated structures of the first human outpost beyond council space were being assembled. The air was sweet and clean, filled with the sense of alien vegetation that remarkably resembled Earth's forests. Dr. Morgan approached, carrying a tablet. The soil tests came back perfect, she said. We can grow Earth crops here with minimal adaptation. And the local plants. Some contain compounds that could revolutionize medicine. Walker looked up at the blue-green sky where 3 small moons were visible even in daylight. A paradise, hidden behind a curtain of energy that scared away the council for centuries. And not just this world, Morgan added. The survey teams have found 2 more habitable planets in nearby systems, and the minerals in the asteroid belts. We've detected elements the council considers rare and precious. Walker's communicator beeped. Commander, you need to see this, came the urgent voice of Security Chief Alex Rivera. Walker and Morgan hurried to the outpost perimeter, where Rivera waited with a small team of security personnel. They were watching a clearing in the nearby forest. We detected movement, Rivera explained. At first we thought it was just local wildlife. But then, from the trees emerged a group of beings unlike any humans had seen before. They walked on 4 legs, with bodies covered in short blue fur. Their upper torsos were more humanoid, with 4 arms ending in delicate, 6-fingered hands. Their heads were elongated with large, gentle eyes. They'd been watching us for days, Rivera said. They just now decided to show themselves. Walker stepped forward slowly, hands raised to show he carried no weapons. First contact, he whispered. And the council has no idea. The leader of the aliens mimicked Walker's gesture, raising 2 of its 4 hands. 6 months later, the human presence in the dark sectors had grown dramatically. New Dawn now hosted a thriving settlement of over 500 people. The native species, who called themselves the Nilari, had proven peaceful and curious. They possessed no space travel technology, but had a rich culture and advanced understanding of their world's ecosystem. More importantly, Dr. Morgan had made a breakthrough that changed everything. In a secure lab near the center of the settlement, she demonstrated her invention to Walker and a team from Earth. The Council monitors all standard faster-than-light communications, she explained. But by using principles we discovered studying the anomalies, we've created a completely new communication system. She activated a device on the table. A holographic display appeared, showing President Torres back on Earth. The signal is instantaneous, Morgan continued proudly, and completely undetectable by Council technology. We can coordinate our entire expansion without them knowing. Torres's image smiled. Excellent work, Dr. Morgan. Commander Walker, your reports have exceeded our highest hopes. The Council thought they could contain humanity within our solar system. Instead, they pushed us toward our greatest adventure. Walker nodded. And we're just getting started, Madam President. We've made contact with traders from the outer Council worlds. There are many species who resent Council restrictions. Some have already expressed interest in joining our settlement. Then proceed with the next phase, Torres said. Establish more outposts. Invite those who wish to join us. The Council created barriers meant to contain us, not realizing they were actually protecting the resources we would need to build something new. After the transmission ended, Walker walked to the window of the command center. In the distance, human engineers worked alongside Nilari builders, combining their knowledge to create structures that blended the best of both cultures. They banned us from their council, he said quietly, so we're building our own future. Morgan joined him at the window, and based on what we've seen so far, it might be better than anything they have. A week later, the first Council patrol ship discovered a human trading post near the edge of the dark sectors. When they attempted to shut it down by force, they discovered their weapons and engines mysteriously failed when faced with technology derived from the very anomalies they had feared for so long. The message was clear. Humanity would not be contained. Their path to the stars would not be blocked. Their empire was just beginning. 10 years had passed since humanity's first steps into the dark sectors. What began as a single outpost on New Dawn had grown into a network of 27 thriving colonies across 15 star systems. Admiral Thomas Walker, promoted from his former rank of commander, stood in the Grand Meeting Hall on New Dawn, now a bustling city of 30,000 humans and nearly as many aliens from various species. "They're ready for you, Admiral," said his aide, Lieutenant Emma Santos. Walker straightened his uniform and entered the circular chamber where representatives from 12 different species waited. Some faces were familiar. The blue-furred Nilari, the first aliens humans had encountered beyond the anomalies. Others were newer allies, the insect-like Kareth with their compound eyes and delicate wings, the bulky rock-skinned Trell, and the Forge units, mechanical beings who had broken free from their creators in Council space. "Friends," Walker began. 10 years ago, humans arrived here as explorers, rejected by the Galactic Council. Today, we gather as partners in the greatest opportunity of our lifetimes. He activated the holographic display in the center of the room, showing the mapped regions of the dark sectors. Blue dots represented established colonies, green showed resource-rich systems, and red marked the boundaries with Council space. "The Council believes they contained us," Walker continued. "Instead, they pushed us towards something remarkable. Together, we have built communities where each species contributes equally. We trade fairly. We share knowledge freely. We defend each other without question." The representative of the Kareth, a female named Varric, raised one of her 4 arms. "What exactly are you proposing, Admiral?" Walker smiled. "I propose we formalize what we've already built, a frontier alliance where all member species have equal voice regardless of their age, technology level, or population size. Unlike the Council, we will have no senior members who control the votes of others." Murmurs of approval spread through the chamber. The Council's strict hierarchy had long been a source of frustration for many species. "The humans offer this in good faith?" asked Gronth, the massive Trull representative, "even though your technology currently leads our colonies in many areas." "Especially because of that," Walker answered. "Earth remembers what it feels like to be dismissed as too young or too unstable to have a voice. We won't repeat the Council's mistakes." A Forge unit stepped forward, its metal body gleaming under the chamber lights. "What will be our response if the Council discovers the full extent of our alliance? They have already attempted to disrupt our trading posts." Walker's expression grew more serious. We will defend our borders but avoid unnecessary conflict. Our goal isn't war with the Council, but to build something better beyond their reach." The discussions continued for hours, with representatives raising concerns, suggesting amendments, and finally reaching agreement. By the meeting's end, the Frontier Alliance was born, with its founding charter signed by representatives of all 12 species. 6 months after the Alliance's formation, Dr. Eliza Morgan led Walker through her newest laboratory on New Dawn. Now serving as the Alliance's chief science director, Morgan had assembled a team of researchers from every member species. "The results are better than we ever imagined," she explained excitedly. "By combining human adaptive thinking with Kareth biological engineering and Forge unit quantum computing, we've developed technologies the Council won't achieve for centuries." Walker looked at the various projects underway in the massive facility. Nilari botanists worked alongside human geneticists to develop crops that could thrive on multiple worlds. Trell engineers and Forge units collaborated on mining equipment that could operate in environments previously considered too hostile. "This is the real strength of the Alliance," Walker observed. "The Council keeps species separated in a hierarchy. We bring them together as equals." Morgan nodded. "And speaking of breakthroughs, there's something you need to see." She led him to a secure section of the lab where a team worked around a biological containment unit. Inside, microscopic organisms glowed with faint blue light. "3 days ago, we received a distress signal from the Peleos system. Council space," Morgan said. "They're suffering from a pandemic that has already killed millions. The Council's response has been tied up in bureaucracy for weeks while they debate the political implications of various medical interventions." Walker frowned. "What does this have to do with us?" One of our Kareth researchers recognized the disease description. Something similar affected their colony centuries ago. With their biological knowledge and our advanced computing systems, we've synthesized a cure. She gestured to the glowing organisms. "These engineered phages will eliminate the pathogen without harming the host." Walker considered this information carefully. The Peleos system is well within Council territory. Sending aid would reveal much about our capabilities. It would also save millions of lives, Morgan countered, and show the galaxy what kind of neighbors we choose to be. 2 weeks later, a fleet of unmarked medical ships arrived in the Peleos system. They transmitted a simple message: "We bring medicine for your sick. No payment required. No political conditions attached." When questioned about their origins, the crews simply identified themselves as representatives of the Frontier Alliance. They delivered the cure, trained local medical teams in its use, and departed before Council military vessels could arrive to investigate. Within a month, the pandemic was contained. Word spread quickly through Council space about the mysterious alliance that had provided aid when the Council had only offered committees and deliberation. In his office on New Dawn, Walker received the reports with satisfaction. On his display screen, President Torres smiled from her office on Earth. The medical mission was a success on every level, Walker reported. Millions saved, and countless more now questioning Council propaganda about dangerous human expansion. Torres nodded. "And our other initiatives?" "The Alliance grows stronger each day," Walker replied. 3 more species have petitioned to join, including the Vexari, who previously had observer status on the Council, but were never granted full rights. "And our defenses?" Walker's expression grew more serious. "Our early warning systems show increased Council patrol activity near our borders. They're concerned, but still underestimate our capabilities. The Alliance Defense Fleet now includes ships from all member species, with integrated technologies that work seamlessly together." Torres leaned forward. "The Council rejected us because they feared what humanity might become. In pushing us away, they created exactly what they feared most, not just humans expanding through space, but humans bringing together others who were also overlooked and underestimated. There's a saying that's become popular in the colony worlds," Walker said with a slight smile. "Earth was banned from the Council, so they made their own empire. But what we're building isn't an empire in the old sense. There are no subjects, only partners. Torres nodded. Let's keep it that way, Admiral. That's our true strength, and the Council's greatest miscalculation. As the communication ended, Walker looked out his window at the bustling city below, where humans worked and lived alongside a dozen alien species. The Council had tried to isolate humanity from the galactic community. Instead, they had set it free to create a new one. 20 years after Earth's rejection, the Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. High Chancellor Vex of the Luminar pounded his crystalline fist against the speaking platform, sending shimmering ripples across his translucent skin. The human problem can no longer be ignored, he declared to the assembled representatives. What began as a minor irritant has grown into an existential threat to Council authority. Holographic displays around the chamber showed maps of the so-called Frontier Alliance territory, over 200 star systems, spanning what had once been considered uninhabitable space. Trade routes connected Alliance worlds to the outer regions of Council space, and the influence of this upstart coalition grew daily. The humans were warned to remain in their home system, Vex continued. Instead, they have created an empire that now rivals our central worlds in industrial output. Worse, they spread dangerous ideas about equality between elder and younger species. A representative of the Voidborn, their skin containing swirling galaxies, rose to speak. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach. The Alliance provided aid during the Pelios pandemic when our response was delayed. Many Council worlds now view them favorably. Precisely why they must be contained now, Vex countered. They undermine our authority through these gestures. The Council has maintained galactic order for 10,000 years by ensuring proper hierarchy between species. The human notion that all voices deserve equal weight is dangerous chaos. After hours of heated debate, the Council voted. The decision was not unanimous, a rarity in Council proceedings, but the majority approved military action to contain the human-led rebellion and re-establish Council authority in the contested regions. On the Alliance border world of Threshold Point, Admiral Walker received the intelligence report with grim determination. The largest Council armada ever assembled was approaching Alliance space, over 200 warships with enough firepower to reduce entire planets to ash. In the command center of the Alliance Defense Station, representatives from each member species gathered around the strategic display. Walker studied the incoming Council fleet formation. They still think like conquerors, he observed. Their ships are positioned to maximize firepower against planetary targets, not for space combat with our fleet. Varric, now the Kareth High Commander, clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. The Council believes this show of force will cause our alliance to fracture. They expect the non-human members to abandon your leadership when faced with the Council's might. Walker nodded. That's been their mistake from the beginning. They see everything through the lens of dominance and submission. He turned to face the gathered representatives. I won't order anyone to fight. Each member world must decide for themselves. For a moment, the room was silent. Then Gronth, the massive Trell, stepped forward. The Trell remember 1,000 years under Council rule. We were allowed to mine our worlds for resources, but never to use those resources for our own advancement. The Alliance has given us 20 years of true partnership. We stand with humans. One by one, each representative pledged their support. The Forge units, the Nilari, the Kareth, and a dozen others, all chose to stand together. Walker activated the communication system. All Alliance vessels, this is Admiral Walker. The Council fleet will reach Threshold Point in 36 hours. Our mission is defensive only. I repeat, defensive only. We protect our borders, but do not seek to destroy our opponents. The Battle of Threshold Point began at dawn, as measured on New Dawn. The Council fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their massive dreadnoughts at the center surrounded by layers of supporting cruisers and fighters. Facing them was the combined Frontier Defense Fleet, ships of every shape and size, designed by different species, but integrated into a cohesive force. At the center was the Defiance, Admiral Walker's flagship, built with technology from all Alliance members. Walker stood on the bridge, watching the Council fleet approach on the main viewer. "Send the message," he ordered. The communications officer nodded. "Broadcasting on all frequencies, sir." Walker's voice transmitted to every Council vessel. "This is Admiral Thomas Walker of the Frontier Alliance. Your fleet has entered Sovereign Alliance space. We request you withdraw immediately to avoid unnecessary conflict. We have no desire for war with the Council." The response came from High Chancellor Vex himself, his crystalline face filling the view screen. "This is not sovereign space, human. These regions belong to the Council by historical right. Your illegal colonies will be dismantled, and your ships escorted back to your home system as originally decreed." Walker shook his head. "We built homes here. We made friends here. We created something new here. We will defend it." Vex's expression hardened. "Then you will face the consequences of your defiance." The Council fleet opened fire, thousands of energy weapons lighting up the blackness of space. But instead of striking Alliance ships, the beams encountered a defensive barrier unlike anything the Council had seen before, a modification of the same technology humans had developed to pass through the dark sector anomalies. "Stabilizer shields holding," reported the Forge Unit Tactical Officer. "Council weapons operating at 30% effectiveness." Walker nodded. "Execute defense pattern Alpha. Remember, disable, don't destroy." The Alliance fleet moved with unexpected coordination. Smaller ships darted between the massive Council vessels, firing precisely calibrated pulses that disrupted their targeting systems. Larger Alliance cruisers fired specialized weapons that disabled Council engines without breaching hulls. On the Council flagship, Vex watched in growing horror as his supposedly superior fleet was systematically immobilized. "Impossible," he whispered as another dreadnought lost power. 3 hours into the battle, over half the Council fleet hung powerless in space. Not a single ship had been destroyed, but they could neither fight nor flee. Walker opened a channel to all vessels. "Council ships, your vessels have been disabled but not damaged. Your life support remains operational. We will now begin rescue operations for any crew requiring medical assistance." Alliance medical ships moved among the disabled Council vessels, providing aid to injured crew members. The Council commanders, trained to expect either victory or death, were confused by this approach. On his flagship, Vex received reports of Alliance medics treating Council wounded with the same care as their own. "Why?" he demanded. "Why not destroy us while they have the advantage?" The Voidborn counselor beside him watched the rescue operations on the view screen. "Perhaps because their goal was never conquest. They truly are building something different." The battle's outcome was broadcast across both Alliance and Council networks. Citizens throughout Council space watched as the supposedly dangerous Alliance forces saved the lives of their defeated opponents. Walker stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the rescue operations. Lieutenant Santos approached with a data tablet. "Sir, we're receiving signals from 17 worlds in Council space," she reported. "They're requesting information about joining the Alliance." Walker nodded, unsurprised. The Council tried to maintain control through fear and hierarchy. "We showed the galaxy another way is possible." As Alliance ships began towing disabled Council vessels to neutral space for repairs, Walker sent a final message to High Chancellor Vex. "We will continue to defend our borders, but we remain open to peaceful dialogue whenever the Council is ready. The future of the galaxy shouldn't be decided through force, but through cooperation." The Battle of Threshold Point was over. The confrontation the Council had planned for 20 years had lasted mere hours, and though they didn't yet realize it, the Council's defeat marked the beginning of their transformation. 25 years after Earth's rejection from the Galactic Council, Ambassador James Reed stepped carefully from his transport onto the landing platform of New Dawn's Grand Assembly building. At 78 years old, his hair had turned white, and his steps were slower, but his eyes remained sharp as they took in the magnificent structure before him. "Quite different from Centaurus Station, isn't it?" asked President Maria Torres, who had come personally to greet him. Though she had served as Earth's president for over 2 decades, she too had finally agreed to step down after this historic day. Reed smiled as he looked at the gleaming building. Unlike the imposing, hierarchical design of the council chamber, the Grand Assembly building was circular, with sweeping arches that connected the different sections rather than separating them. Representatives from over 100 species moved through the open corridors, their voices creating a symphony of languages. When they turned us away, I never imagined this would be the result, Reed admitted. I thought we had lost our chance to join the galactic community. Torres laughed softly. Instead, we built a better one. They walked together through the main entrance, where Admiral Walker waited to escort them to the inaugural session. Around them, the building buzzed with activity as the final preparations were made for the historic gathering. Is it true that council representatives are attending? Reed asked. Walker nodded. Yes, and not just as observers. After the Battle of Threshold Point, everything changed. The council's military enforcement branch was dissolved by vote of their own members. High Chancellor Vex was removed from power. The new leadership has requested formal diplomatic relations, and we agreed. Reed raised an eyebrow. With conditions, Torres replied. The new Galactic Assembly will replace both the Council and our alliance structures. Every species will have equal representation, regardless of their history or technology level. They entered the main chamber, a perfect circle with seats arranged in concentric rings, rather than the tiered hierarchy of the old council. At the center stood a platform with a simple podium, designed at a height accessible to species of various sizes. The chamber ceiling was a massive dome that showed the actual stars above New Dawn, a reminder of the vastness they all shared. It's time, Walker said, checking his timepiece. They're ready for you, Ambassador Reed. Reed straightened his formal diplomatic uniform, the same one he had worn 25 years ago on Centaurus Station, carefully preserved for this moment. Are you ready for this, James? Torres asked quietly. Reed nodded. I've been waiting 25 years to finish my speech. The chamber fell silent as Reed approached the central podium. Around him sat representatives from across the galaxy, members of the former Alliance, Independent Worlds, and yes, former Council species. Among them, he recognized the crystalline form of a luminar and the star-speckled skin of a voidborn, now seated as equals alongside humans, Nilari, Kareth, and dozens of others. 25 years ago, Reed began, his voice clear and strong despite his age. I stood before the Galactic Council seeking admission for humanity. I was told that we were too unpredictable, too dangerous to join the galactic community. He paused, looking around the chamber. They were right, but not in the way they thought. Humanity is unpredictable. We faced rejection and chose creation over resentment. We encountered barriers and found ways through them rather than submitting to them. We met new species and offered partnership instead of conquest. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. The old council believed order came from control, from older species guiding younger ones, from maintaining traditions that had lasted for millennia. What we discovered in the dark sectors was that true strength comes from diversity, from the combining of different perspectives, from allowing each voice to contribute regardless of how long they've been among the stars. Reed gestured to the chamber around them. This Galactic Assembly represents a new approach, not a council that judges who is worthy, not an alliance formed in response to rejection, but a true union of all willing species, each with one vote, each with an equal voice. From the front row, a Luminar representative rose. Unlike High Chancellor Vex with his rigid posture, this Luminar's crystalline form flowed more freely, reflecting the light in gentler patterns. Ambassador Reed speaks wisdom, the Luminar said. For 10,000 years, my species helped lead the council, believing we were preserving order. We forgot that the greatest strengths come not from control but from adaptation, something humans reminded us of through their actions rather than their words. The Voidborn representative stood next. When we rejected Earth's petition, we believed we were protecting the galaxy from an unpredictable element. Instead, we pushed that element to create something that has ultimately strengthened us all. The Battle of Threshold Point showed us what we had become, and what we could be instead. One by one, representatives rose to speak. Those who had been part of the Alliance from its early days, those who had joined later, and former council members who had chosen this new path. As the session continued, Reed stepped back from the podium and rejoined Taurus and Walker. "Not bad for a species that was told to stay in their solar system," Torres said with a smile. Reed watched the proceedings with satisfaction. "Do you know what the most popular story is throughout the galaxy now? Earth was banned from the Council, so they made their own empire. It's told on hundreds of worlds, in countless languages." Walker shook his head. "But what we built isn't an empire. Empires conquer. We connected. That's why the story is so powerful," Reed replied. "It reminds everyone that rejection doesn't have to be the end. Sometimes it's just the beginning of a better path." As the day continued, the first official acts of the new Galactic Assembly were recorded. Trade agreements were standardized. Mutual defense pacts were signed. Scientific cooperation initiatives were launched. The barriers around the dark sectors were officially classified as protected transit routes rather than dangerous boundaries. That evening, Reed stood on the observation deck of the assembly building, looking up at the stars. A young Nilari approached, its 4 arms carrying a recording device. "Ambassador Reed," the Nilari said respectfully, "I am documenting the history of this day for future generations. May I ask you one question?" Reed nodded. "When humans were first rejected by the Council, did you ever imagine this outcome?" Reed looked out at the city of New Dawn, where beings from hundreds of worlds now lived and worked together. In the distance, ships of diverse designs arrived and departed from the spaceport, carrying the news of the new Galactic Assembly to worlds throughout the galaxy. "No," he admitted honestly. "But that's the thing about humans. We're unpredictable." The Nilari's large eyes blinked in what Reed had come to recognize as their version of laughter. "That," the young historian said, "is exactly why the galaxy needed you."